third session today is themed at evolving employee expectation, empathy at workplace. The session is likely to dwell deeply into evolving employer-employee dynamics, employee expectations, and emphasizes the crucial role of empathy in creating a positive, productive workplace environment. I now call upon Mr. Vijayaraghavan, Managing Partner, People and Growth, and author at ZingHR. Mr. Vijayaraghavan, a visionary business leader, storyteller, music enthusiast, wine lover, dedicated coach and father. Author of the book, Tales from the Hall of Rags and Riddles, How a Pet Transformed Vijay and his family and changes him to be an animal rights activist.
Great, thank you so much.
Very, very happy to have you, sir. Most welcome. Thank you. Mr. Ranjit KP, Director HR, Palo Alto Networks. Mr. Ranjit is a seasoned HR Director at Palo Alto Networks with 18 years of experience driving people strategies and HR programs globally, with expertise in digital and social media strategy and a passion for fitness and strong employer branding. Mr. Ranjit. Mr. Srinivasa Vivek Jyoti Prakasam, co-founder Pythios Health Systems. Mr. Srinivasa specializes in scientific wellness, fitness and human performance. He focuses on wearables, telemetry, digital nutrition and movement protocols, biohacking, digital biomarkers and enhancing athlete performance. Mr. Srinivasa. Mr. Sethul Thakrar, CFO, Texas Instruments. Building, growing and leading strong winning teams across multiple functions in finance and operations with a strong foundation on ethics and integrity. Mr. Sethul has over 15 years of expertise in the field of strategy, financial and operational management and people development. Mr. Sethul Thakrar. I am sure the tea break has given us all some energy, so I think we can clap louder. Mr. Rohan Menon, Vice President Customer Onboarding from ZingHR. Mr. Rohan Menon is a dedicated leader and mentor with a strong track record in SaaS platform delivery, program management, and IT and data analytics, committed to team unity, excellence, and inclusion. Mr. Rohan Menon. Ms. Sarita TP, Head People and Culture, LaborNet Services India Private Limited. Ms. Sarita is a HR professional with extensive experience in organizational development, talent management and leadership, specializing in building and guiding successful teams. Ms. Sarita. Welcome. May I now request Mr. Vijayaraghavan, the chair of the session, to lead the session.
Thank you so much.
And so just one note before, we'll take 1 hour for this session and we'll finish this session exactly around 4.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it. And ladies and gentlemen, esteemed panelists, I'm sure you would have got an idea about how diverse this panel itself is. So fasten your seatbelt and distinguished guest, welcome to what is going to be a promising to be a power-packed discussion on evolving employee expectations and empathy at the workplace. Today we have a panel that's just not power-packed, but potentially powerful enough to reboot your coffee maker remotely and program your microwave or cook the perfect popcorn. So buckle up, because we are about to witness a discussion so engaging, even your pet at home may do a jumping jacks in anticipation. So the first perspective is that in the quest for a workplace harmony, I perceive the balance between meeting evolving employee expectations and maintaining organizational objective is paramount. So this question to you, Ranjit, sorry, you're the first man here, is how can organization proactively adapt to the changing expectations of their workforce without compromising on productivity and efficiency?
Thanks, Vijay, and I feel very nervous when I sit in front of an audience like this, because in a corporate it's very easy, right? You generally walk in with the already preset sheet, you know what to talk, what to do, but with an audience like this it always makes me nervous about. But when I was reflecting about the question and the topic, I think this is not something new, right? Workplaces have been evolving last many years, and since the era of industrialization, and I'm sure a lot of audience here are teachers and people who into academics as well. So a lot of things have changed over the last 30 years if you look at it. And I think the acceleration phase, right, if you recently look at COVID, made a shift in terms of employee perceptions, employee needs, right, the way we look at life and work, and it is a thin line between what work and what life wants, especially I'm more reflective of the people from the IT industry because I'm close to that. I think when it comes to expectations, before it was a standard thing, right? I go to office at 9 o'clock, probably I come back at 6, or my work extends up to 12, or whatever the time which requires, right? It's not really defined as such, and that takes on priority. Number 2, right? Am I compensated well? I'm getting enough paid, right? As far as I'm paid, I'm good, I'm going home, right? The third one is, lot of people didn't even talk about flexibility, right, or a work-life balance. The concept was there, but how effectively was it discussed? Was it demanding enough? It was much like probably it would have been in the list of 1 to 10, probably 8 or 9 or 10 at the moment. But those things have been changing, and I think those things have changed very aggressively last couple of years. People have more demands, more expectations, and I would say it is all in a positive way. It is not about asking that I need this. It's more about caring. It's about understanding, and it goes equal to that. Before there was a void between what is management and what is employees. I think even a management guy is an employee now, right? Everybody are equal. So demands have become more needs, understanding. People take it very personal. And one of 3 things, I would say probably 3 things are most important, which I noticed. One, definitely people are asking about flexibility, and flexibility can be many things, right? One is primarily flexibility in location, flexibility in time, right? Flexibility in benefits. What are the kind of things which is custom made for me? And am I rewarded enough? Am I recognized enough? Is the compensation good? People have multiple things of expectation from the companies, which was not the case before. Before it was all set, but now companies are equally bothered about how to make it tailor-made, how to make it more personalized, how do we make it more meaningful, which was not the case for many of those. So to put in a small phrase, what Vijay was saying, it is more about collaboration. It's about meeting expectations of people in a positive way to make a great impact, and it's a collective. It's no more an individual expectation. It's more a collective expectation from the company as well as from the employees.
Thank you, Ranjit. We'll come back to that in a while, but my next question to you, Shetul, is, in my experience, it is integral to have empathy in fostering a work environment that promotes both individual and collective success. The question to you is, can you share instances where empathy played a pivotal role in resolving workplace issues and contributed to overall team productivity?
Thanks. Hello. Yeah. First of all, thanks Vijay and the esteemed guest over here for having me here. Yeah. Hello.
See, this is the reason I look like a pilot here.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me, why do I look like a pilot? This is the reason.
There's no red light here. Okay.
Hello.
Yeah.
Much better.
Thank you. So for me, in my career, I've realized that empathy is equal to productivity. I don't think that we can have productivity in workplace without empathy, and a lot of it is tone at the top. In my opinion, if we do not display that tone at the top, right, I think that we are failing to really bring that culture of empathy into the organization. So a couple of examples that I would love to share from my own experience. One that I was personally involved in and one that benefited me. The one that I was personally involved with, it's very, very close to my heart, is during the times of COVID, where we were all working from home and vaccinations are not out there. People were really struggling to get hospital beds. But I think just looking at how, as an organization, all of us got together, and first thing we realized that it doesn't matter whether the company is doing well or not, whether we are actually getting things done in the job, that's all secondary. First paramount thing is the employee's life and their family's well-being. And I think keeping that in mind and how we actually put together an employee support group And this included folks from not just management, from all levels of the organization, and really having to reach out to each and every employee, and not just for the employee's well-being, but also to ensure the family's well-being. Supporting personally in that forum was something that really touched me, and I realized that at the end of the day, how much that would have helped the employee, and especially the feeling from all the employees that, you know what, this is the company I would like to work for. This is a place where I would like to give 100% because this is a company that cares about me and my family. And every time I've noticed that when we have a town hall, I have noticed that the first thing that, again going back from tone at the top, the leadership level, the first thing we do is first we thank all our facility support staff, the folks who are serving tea, coffee for you. We want to actually acknowledge that without them, right, things would be very difficult for us to run, right? So it goes to that ground level. Second, we acknowledge all the family members, because without the support of the family members, I don't think we as will be able to be as productive as we could be, right? So our family's been very supportive in terms of whether we're working late or we're working weekends, all of that, it plays a very important role. The second thing, which is that I personally benefited, was I was in a situation where I felt I was not being recognized enough or appreciated enough, and I always had this concern that, hey, who do I talk to about this, and who will listen to me, and is there somebody who will actually want to help me? But I decided to take a leap of faith, and I decided to talk to the concerned HR, and that concerned HR was able to resolve that issue for me. Which really made me feel very happy about the fact that I have somebody, not who's there to listen to me, and not necessarily who is very much tiptoeing in line with the CEO. So this made me feel comfortable that sometimes the leap of faith also has to be taken by us. Don't just expect the organization to build that foster of culture of empathy. We also sometimes have to be courageous to open up, and when you do that, sometimes you see wonders. So I am better off of it because I decided to take that courageous step and approach HR. And this is the forum. I'm specifically bringing this example because I know this is a specific focus on employee in HR, and I wanted to make sure that I give two sides of that perspective. So thanks.
Thank you so much, Shetu. Apparently, some of the people in the panel here are my colleagues and ex-colleagues, so that's how it is. And
yes,
some of my friends. And okay. So empathy is equal to productivity, and what I hear is, please do speak your heart out to someone in the organization. They will be there to help you out. Okay. In the age of remote work and digital communication, I see the role of empathy evolving, progressive strategies that organizations employ to ensure a connected and compassionate virtual workplace. So Rohan, the question to you here is, how can leaders effectively demonstrate empathy in a virtual or hybrid work setting, considering the limitations of digital communication?
Good morning, everyone. And with the way that he asks questions, you'll know that he does his homework really well. Right? He decides that he wants to phrase them in an absolute googly manner, which could get us clean board. So thank you, Vijay, for doing that. I think it's important in the digital age and where all of us are collaborating that the right questions are asked out so that it prompts us to do a little bit of thinking and bring out the right kind of answer. So the essence of his question is, we are digital, how do we show empathy, right? Let's go back to an example from few days ago. We heard an AI CEO strangled, or rather decided to end the life of her 4-year-old for some reason. Let's not delve into that, but the outcome was that she decided to end her life. Question comes, she's the CEO of the company, would you like to work for that company? No. Today you know that the case has come out. Do you know that your current CEO probably is not in that state? We don't know, right?
Scary.
It is scary, right? Do you know that if you are working for a CEO, are you in the midst of a person who is capable of doing that? Because I think before she did that, I've known that she was an absolute top 100, one of the CEOs, was really wonderful to speak to, has been kind to just about everybody that she worked in. I think as leaders and as HR, I think it's very important to start identifying some of those pointers. And I think it can start with basic check-ins. Make it a point until it becomes second nature or becomes habit that when you are on a meeting, especially digitally, you check in I understand there are pressing matters of business to attend to, but taking that 2 minutes to make sure that you check in and you nurture that relationship that you have with these people on the call actually matters, right? People show up, come what may. They could be in the most comfortable of clothes, sitting in their homes and working probably sometimes with less than what you would expect in corporate. But there are unseen struggles behind each person's life that they are taking care of, they're putting on before they appear on this digital workspace to actually work. So you taking that effort to actually check in and nurture that relationship helps you understand what is their unseen struggle sometimes. You may not be able to influence what their struggle is or the outcome of that struggle, but lending a helpful ear or at least a shoulder for them to actually vent sometimes makes sense. I run a cadence at 3 o'clock. I give it my meeting's name is very serious. It says Outcommission Teams Strategy Meeting, but that meeting is exclusively for my team to vent to me. I make sure we get in, we talk about how each of them are, what their kids are doing, what has made them pull their hair out that day. That is strategy. Making sure that the people who work for me are able to vent safely without having repercussions and then go back to what they're doing is my strategy. So far it's been very successful for me. So that's why I'm sharing it with you. The other thing is, especially in the case of the digital workspace and empathy, I think you ought to give people benefit of doubt. A lot of times you expect something to happen, it doesn't happen for various reasons. You could be under pressure, they could be under pressure. But if they have not betrayed your trust so far, I don't think they would be starting today. So it's okay to give them benefit of trust. Another thing that I like to tell first line managers usually when they start out in their first responsibility as being management leadership, I tell them to start everybody at a score of 100. Invariably start your entire team at 100. Unless they decide to bring it down, keep it at 100. Gives you no reason not to trust them, right? And as leaders also remember, you have a responsibility going upstairs. So trust but verify. That is your job, right? Trust people but verify. We are great at communication. All of us have phones, probably some with 2 SIMs, 3 SIMs, 3 data connections, and yet we struggle with communication. I think one of the biggest points of empathy in the digital world is we recognize and we accept that there are struggles with communications, right? You could have built up the best possible presentation, a business proposal, a response, and you could have lousy internet the next day. That doesn't make you a bad person or doesn't make you inefficient. As a leader, as people who are receiving this communication, I think it's important that we accept that there are struggles with communication. Showcasing that in your meetings with people makes them feel comfortable, brings out the best in them. So I think those are some things that I practice today.
Great. We'll come back to you, Rohan, on a few more things. By the way, Rohan also run a NGO school, which places at Chikmagalur, in Chikmagalur, and it caters to around 300 kids, underprivileged kids, he and his family. Why I'm bringing this point home here is because of the fact that we're talking about empathy, right? And therefore, one of the things that we need to highlight among people is, it's just not in the workplace, it's even outside the workplace what we do. Right. In the millennial and Gen Z workforce brings unique expectations to the table. It's constant quest among leavers as to how can organizations tailor their approaches to talent management to align with the values and expectations of younger employees. The question to you, Sarita, and of course to you, we'll come back to you, Vivek, is that what specific initiatives or policies have you seen or implemented to engage, retain younger talents in the workplace?
Alright, thanks Vijay for that question. Let me flip the question a little bit to start with. I think when we talk about inclusion, we're not just talking about Gen Y or Gen Z. We're also talking about a Gen X, which is a significant part of the population. So I would want to from there as well. The take on it would be, yes, everybody knows that the expectations are different, but let's take a step back and think about why the expectations are different. There is a Gen X at home who empowered a Gen Y or a Gen Z to question everything. They empowered this generation to ask the right kind of questions. They said that it's not a bad thing to be authentic to this Gen Y and Gen Z, right? And when we talk about workplaces, and I see this bias quite a bit of times, that when we talk about the workplace, we tend to think that it's only the Gen Z or the Gen Y who are seeking for certain things like meaning in work. I think in my interactions with my peers and my own experience is that it could be a misnomer. Maybe a lot of people in this room are seeking the same things from work. That's the first thing that I would like to say. So while there is a newfound boldness in the Gen Y and Gen Z to openly state that these are my expectations, there could be an unstated requirement in Gen X also. And we are living in very interesting times. In fact, my team comprises of people from 22 to 59. That's the age group of my team. So I see in my conversations with the team that many a times the expectation of the 59-year-old is not different from the 22-year-old at all. Everybody wants to be appreciated. Everybody wants meaning from work, right? In fact, I had taken my entrepreneurial journey in the year 2020, and I was not planning to come back to a 9 to 6 kind of working. In one of my chance conversations with the founder of where I work, it got me so enticed into coming back to work. So I think I was seeking meaning there. It was simple. It was nothing else. So I said, I will still continue to be an entrepreneur, but this is so meaningful for me. So what's the meaning this organization gives? This organization is about providing employability, and not just about providing employability, but how do we enhance the livelihood of a blue-collar worker from hire to retire. It's the entire journey which got me excited into coming back to work. So I think it is proof enough that a lot of us are seeking meaning at this point of time. That's number one. Number two is, let's talk about flexibility as a matter of fact. See, Gen X probably has the freedom to work probably from a 9 to 6 or on weekends and all that because of the situation, the family situation they are in. Whereas a Gen Y may be grappling with the newfound responsibilities, and also it is a time of learning. For a lot of Gen X, it's also a time of learning which causes undue stress. And during the COVID times, all of us figured out one thing. Okay, we all value time, but I think we also figured out during that time what time can do for us. So we've started seeing time in a very different perspective, right? And our need for flexibility for the entire workforce comes from there. So while we talk about differentiated policies for a Gen X and Gen Y, Gen Y and Gen Z, I don't think we should exclude Gen X also from there. This has been my experience. And we were talking about empathy, right? So how I see that playing out in the workplace is, okay, it's talked about very loosely at many times. Okay, put everybody through an empathy training and empathy happens in the organization. That's how many batches of empathy training have you completed? Have all the people been covered? This is a tick mark. For a lot of organizations, it's a tick mark. I think it goes much beyond that. It's an everyday action from a leader, right? Which actually builds the culture of empathy. It's very easy to talk about changing people. Changing the structure is a little less difficult, right? Changing routines is even more difficult in organizations, which leads to change of culture. So how do we change the routines to change the culture is the question here, even to retain the younger workforce in the organization. So some of the things that we do, very simple things. Some of the things are like, we ask all the leaders to do check-ins when they do check-ins, how are you doing at work? It has to be followed by a question, how are you feeling about work? What do you feel? What are you feeling at this moment? And a lot of people are apprehensive about going there. It's a danger zone for a lot many people. It's a zone of discomfort. But okay, then how do you work with leaders to make it easier for them? That's the first step. So we are talking about routines there. So it starts probably with the founder or whoever is on top. It starts from there. If they talk authentically and if they do check-ins with the leaders asking how are you feeling, there's no other agenda. How are you feeling is the agenda. That's one thing. We do a lot of storytelling sessions. We allow people to share stories with each other. So when Srinivas was talking, I was inspired by his story, right? So I know that I have something to learn from him. And likewise, when somebody from another generation tells you a story, in fact, something very interesting happened in one of the recent events. We were doing a culture call-out in Kaban Park. So we do our ideations in parks. We don't do it in the office. We have a Jai Mahal Park, we have a Kaban Park all nearby. So we just go out and we just sit there and talk. So in one of the sessions, I had a 56-year-old and I also had a 21-year-old. When they were talking about culture, the 21-year-old said, we want more young people to come into this organization because it's so boring otherwise. So immediately the 55-year-old person who's the most fun person in the team turned to her and asked, what do you think of me? You're fun. Okay, what do you think is my age? 55. So, do you think it has got to do with age? It was a question. It was a confrontation then and there. And then a lot of things unfolded between the teams and there was a lot of conversation around, probably it is not to do with age. You know, a lot of things gets debated openly. How do you create that culture where people can fearlessly talk to be authentic? I think it comes back to that. When it comes to younger workforce, authenticity, I heard you talk about the opportunity to grow, explore, ask questions. In fact, at the beginning of my career, I had a wonderful manager who had, it was a poster above his head. And it said, it was an inverted question mark and it said, why not?
Yeah, so Sarita, interesting point that you mentioned, right, about feeling. Often in workplace, the first question that we tend to ask is, how are you? Now, how are you can have various responses, right?
Yeah.
But how do you feel can only have one response.
Yes.
I'll come back to you with that,
Sure,
Sarita. And
sure.
coming to you, Vivek, no, I'm not missing you. No. So, he's got an interesting profile. Oh, man, this is good. Anyway, so he will talk about it much more during the course of the discussion. But on the same question, what would be your response? Have you missed the question? Should I repeat it? You got it. Okay.
Yeah, so probably I'll say good morning to everyone. I'll just set a context. Okay, I'm from a startup, 80 people, diverse set of crowd. We have coders, engineers, data scientists, doctors, nurses, field technicians, HRs. We have HRs. So the views are reflective of that. Okay, the first time we met, our age group is very young. Average age is like 28. Even if we have young doctors, not just the experienced ones. The single important thing that we've seen when we try to attract this talent, right? The first time founders get questioned back in the interview. What's your transformative purpose? We don't interview them, right? Typically, they ask you questions. What's your transformative purpose looks like? The work that I'm doing, is it going to really get manifested in this world? That my viewpoint is going to get reflected in the world. That's another thing they keep asking. They ask about our runway. Do you have money in the bank to pay me for next 6 months, 9 months? But that comes, a little behind. So this is the first time I've seen. See, I had a corporate stint, but this is the first time I've seen this generation is crystal clear on what they want to do. Not just on just picking up some work for a certain financial package and certain growth trajectory and stuff. Okay, so that's what we have seen, and then they know they are getting into a lot of uncertainty and volatility, which typically a corporate job is more about stability and growth. Here, the Gen Z crowd, the Gen Y, even millennials to that extent, they want to get exposed to VUCA. Right? They are okay to take, because startup, it's like a roller coaster. Some days you feel so good that you are going to capture the whole world. The next day you will feel like, why the hell even we started this, right? So that kind of extreme emotional and cognitive variations that people are ready to get exposed to. This is one of the surprising things that we have seen. But in terms of how do we engage them, okay, the primary thing is, I think it's already been spoke about enough, both by Ranjit and Sarita. In terms of flexibility, we talk about two flexibility. One is the spatial, which is the space, and the temporal, which is the time. You can't tell them what time you need to be in office. I mean, you can't do both. Either, I mean, what time you can work also, I mean, it's pretty flexible to them. Right? So both the flexibility, and also another important thing is the cognitive flexibility. Tell me what to do, don't tell me how to do it.
Exactly.
Right? So that's another important thing that we see in all the three dimensions of flexibility is what they look for. And also autonomy is another important thing. Right? You need to give them space, you need to give them the creative flexibility in what they are doing, how they are manifesting it, and finally, you get the required outcome much faster. Okay, so as a policy perspective, what we do, at least in our company, is, see, we have people who are not even graduated, we have school kids, we have college kids, we have people who did homeschooling. We have seen the biggest creatives in UI UX are coming from people who are homeschooled for a certain reason. I mean, and people from liberal arts background, that's like so many new things. So we don't have a very specific policy of we need to bring certain people at this experience level or at this age group. So that's what we're seeing. I mean, empathy, I mean, when it comes to that, right, again, I mean, two types of empathy. One is respecting others' ideas, opinions, the logic and stuff. That's a cognitive empathy. And the most spoken about empathy is the emotional one, right? At least you need to feel what others are feeling. There used to be a saying that we hear most than we listen, right? So these people just want to be heard, is what we see from the young generation. At least you listen to them. And then the final one is compassion, that we always mix up empathy with compassion, but that's a type of empathy. Finally, offering a help back. Okay, this is what the situation that you're in, I'm empathetical to that, and this is the solution. This is what the young generation, what you see. But again, I mean, when you do all these things right, churn will automatically be taken care of. Otherwise, we don't do anything retention as a specific, because there is an expiry date for most of this talent. Okay, once they see their mission is accomplished, they're going to abandon you. So we don't take that very seriously to heart.
Excellent, Vivek. So I knew that there will be power packed, and this is what I expected out of you. Interestingly, on the compassion part, right? We'll come back to you. There's an interesting question for everyone on compassion. The next one is to Ranjit, but before that, empathy often starts at the leadership level. We agree? We may disagree. Especially to foster a culture of empathy that permeates throughout the entire organization. So the question to you, Ranjit, is that, can you share examples of leadership practices that have successfully created an emphatic workplace culture, trickling down to every level of the organization?
He always puts all these languages, right?
I worked hard. I did my homework.
No. See, what happens is, I wouldn't attribute this only to a certain level of leadership, right? I think, I was listening to, all of you, right? I think it had references to people across the board, right? And each of the people, right, in various levels, feel it, experience it, and probably demonstrate it in a various forms and shapes. But as a company, right, many times what happens is most of the people who we hire and they come in with a lot of experiences in various places, and even at home, right? It's not, empathy is not a subject which is specific to corporate, it starts from home, right? Are we not compassionate, right? Are we not empathetic to our own siblings, right? So I don't reference it to a particular corporate scenario, but I think it all starts at home. To me, I think in an organization, it's about the platform, right, where you provide an opportunity to people to demonstrate it. Inherently, all of it have it, but do you have a community? Do you have a platform? Do you encourage it? Do you disencourage? Some of the behaviors, right? You say this is not acceptable. Do you really put it across and say, right? I think it is about that environment, that ecosystem as a company, as leaders, as managers, as employees, we all created together for us to feel better. What are different policies and programs we try? Of course, most of it, as I said, these are all inherently known to us, but you need sometimes a little bit of storytelling or demonstration or encouragement or recognizing somebody, hey listen, somebody did this, right, isn't it good? That emulates, it's like a cycle, right, that kicks off the next level conversations, next level, people start looking and start doing the same thing. It has that ripple effect, right, people, so that's exactly what we try to do. In our companies, there are conversations, there are many training programs and all of those, but I think we look mostly for people who actually are the cultural ambassadors or compassionate ambassadors, where people do it and we recognize it, so more people emulate it, they follow it, and that's something like an ecosystem which we have created. And is it like a conscious, big written policy? It is not, right? It is subtle, it is mostly practiced, it is demonstrated, and it is done across the board. It doesn't matter whether you're an executive leader or you're a manager or you're an individual contributor. End of the day, if somebody does it, you recognize it, you show it to other people, more and more people follow it.
Thank you so much. Before I go to the next question, maybe I take two questions from the audience, because then we don't want to run out of time.
Sure.
So far whatever we have been discussing, is there any question that you would want us to take?
Yeah, I actually.
Go ahead.
It is for ma'am. So regarding change management, so we were discussing on how does empathy kind of change along with whatever internal changes that are happening. So I would like any one of you, or maybe in specific to you, to shed some light on how can companies, let's say if they are going global, let's say they have half workforce in one part of the country and the other half spread across. So how do they cope up with change management in specific? So let's say if they're either in terms of policies, either in terms of the pace of work that they do, either it be offline, hybrid. So how do we cope up with change management in general, so that the empathy is not affected?
Okay. Yeah. So yeah. I see two aspects to this question. One, you are asking when there is change happening and it is global, right? Then how do you help people cope up with the change? So it will need to be a little bit more specific for me to give you a specific answer. I do not know what type of change you're talking about. Is it with regard to policies changing? And first question, then the first question is it the same policy for everybody? That would be my first question. And if the answer is yes, then why is it the same policy, and is it contextualized? Why not contextualize the policy and spare them the discomfort of going through that change, which may be a deviation or whatever they have experienced in life. If they have to unlearn something and learn completely new things, we are troubling a set of people. That's the first thing. So being mindful of how you are contextualizing this change would be the first thing to do, and that's empathy in practice. The second one is also about how are you allowing for interactions between this team of people. Are you doing it gradually, or are you putting them in a project one fine day and say, okay, you work with somebody from Mexico and Singapore and Malaysia and India? Is that what we are doing? How are we preparing them to adapt? So I've seen in a lot of organizations, there are cultural trainings that take place, which helps you understand some of the things which may be right for us, which are not right for another culture. So are you gradually moving them there for that change? How are you preparing them for that change? So these two would be the key things that, if I had an opportunity, I would keep in mind these two things.
Very good. Yeah. We take one more question at this time. Can you just pass the mic to the gentleman?
No, that's fine.
That's okay.
Yeah. So my question would be in terms of how do you go ahead and scale this up, right? When it's a very small team in the very beginning, I think creating empathy and understanding people there, I think it's a lot more personalized during that time. But once you start growing bigger and bigger and bigger, I think a lot of startup founders would come up with that same question saying, how do I go ahead and scale this up tomorrow? How do I ensure that the new people who are coming in also understand the culture of this ecosystem that we're building? So that would be my question. It's a general question for the panel.
Sure. Can you identify yourself please first?
Oh, sorry. My name is Shashank and I'm the founder of a company called Teamin Up. Teamin Up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. We are all grappling with that, by the way. Nobody has got a perfect answer, and I'm the least having an answer because I'm here to ask questions. Anyone, Rohan, yeah.
Shashank, right?
Yes.
Hi Shashank. I think the culture is what we teach one another and what we can showcase in practice, right? If we, especially when you're scaling, right, and this ties right back into change management, what he said. Change management comes with cost and effort, right? And your whole point about scaling up is essentially change management, right? You are now learning to do this, you're learning to achieve the same vision with probably 10x people together. At which point you have to actually decide that this is the culture that I would like my organization to grow with, right or wrong, right? That's a different question altogether, right? But you as a founder say that this is what brought me till here. You could be rigid and say this is what will take me forward, or you could say this is what brought me till here, I would like to see what will take me forward, right? And then if you are open to actually accepting different practices, probably well proven from somebody else's workspace where you've seen effect, I would say in the scaling journey it's important to be a little flexible while not letting go of your values at all. You still hold on to your values and look at what other cultural aspects actually reflect the same value. If you are able to do that and if you are accepting of the cost and effort that comes with change management, I think you'll do well.
Can I go 30 seconds?
Very well said.
Respond to that?
Sorry?
A quick 30-second response to that.
Of course.
Okay, so first of all, Shashank, I empathize with you. Even though I'm not a founder, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes, and I can think of two things that I would do if I were one of the founders who were trying to scale. One is my hiring practices. It's very, very important that your hiring practices are extremely focused on the non-technical aspects, on the softer side of things. And a lot of times, and you heard Vivek talk about the question that he gets asked. It's important how you frame your questions. You have to give in my opinion, I've had the best interviews where I give scenarios. If you are placed in this scenario, how would you react? And those scenarios can be technical and it can be cultural, it can be, especially if you're hiring managers, more so on the empathy aspects, right? That's point number one. Second is, as you scale, your presence on the floor, how you behave with your leadership team, how your leadership team then inculcates that behavior. But this is how my CEO behaves with me, that's how I'm going to behave with my external manager. And that trickles down. So when they see you going around and saying good morning everyone, how was your weekend and how did you do and what's happening with your children, some of the examples we heard today, that behavior will automatically give it on, no matter what, over time it will pick up. Your leadership team will pick up on that, and that's how the culture spreads to the organization. So no matter how much you grow, if the fact of the matter is you're on the floor doing that and living and breathing that genuinely every day, that will eventually get picked up. That's just my brilliant steps.
Excellent. Anyone else? You want to add? Go ahead. Yeah.
A very counterintuitive view to this.
Absolutely.
See, what we have seen while scaling up, right, I think is a harsh reality that's facing all of us. Machines are getting infinitely empathetic, by the way. It passes all the agents.
Actually more empathetic than human.
Yeah, correct. Infinitely empathetic. So, when we scaled our health coaching practice, the sports coaching practice, there are only so many good practitioners out there, and your cost linearly goes up when you're scaling. So, with the new LLMs and the agents, right, pretty much it passes the Turing test. What is the Turing test? You chat with a bot, you won't differentiate whether it's a machine or a human at the back. And it doesn't get the decision fatigue. It can work 24/7. So if we don't really get into the human side of empathy, right, then the machines are going to take over too. I mean, very shorter period. It's already happening. If you chat with Amex and all these top American brands, right, there is no actually human agent at the back. Pretty much the LLMs are getting so smart. empathetic, and then it can even play to your psychology, find the bias in your thinking. Because I was being forced by Amex to not to get refund on an annual fee by the agent itself, right? You get convinced, I mean, so see, either we do it or the machines are going to come after us. I think that's another view of the scaling side.
Yeah, I know you have a question. I just have to go back and ask him how much time I have.
Exactly 8 minutes.
8 minutes. You have 30 seconds for your question and 30 seconds for the answer. Go ahead.
Thank you. I understand that the majority of people who are sitting over there right now are dealing with the human resources, right?
Kind of. Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I just want to ask one thing, very specifically, because I'm at the niche career of mine in the HR, more than 7+ years. Is it possible for the HR to keep everyone happy? First. Second, is it a support to the business or we are the business?
Okay. I'm really grateful for this. I want to jump out and hug you for this question. But can I actually?
Yeah, please. Yeah. Please go for it.
Ranjit, can I? So, first of all, we got to understand HR is not father and mother of anybody in the organization, right? We are not parents. And if anybody comes and tells you that you should behave like dad and mom, you must tell we cannot. And if that is what is reflected, people will understand. An individual's career, individual's happiness is their responsibility. An organization can only do so much. And if this is a collective sentiment, the organization will succeed. A lot more deeper conversation can be had over a cup of coffee.
Can I just add 10 seconds to that?
Yes.
It being your responsibility, are you usually happy with your choices? Don't answer that. Is a question that everybody should ask themselves. And we talked about this, right? What you are today is a collection of all decisions that you have taken in your life. Not everything makes you happy, by the way, right? And it's perfectly okay. But then, please be kind with yourself and give yourself the benefit of doubt. It's okay, you made a mistake, you made a decision which has turned out to be a mistake. You can't keep everyone happy. You can't keep yourself happy. Forget somebody else.
Great. I had actually 2 more questions, but because of the paucity of time, I'm straight away jumping to the last question, which is going to be one of my favorite questions. Here it is. Where did it go? Yeah. Alright. And why I'm asking this question, you will get to know a little in a while. In a world where pets have become our co-workers, I believe a pet-friendly workplace can contribute to fostering empathy among employees. The question to each one of you, and I'll start with Ranjit, is can you share examples or experiences where the presence of pets in the workplace has positively influenced the overall atmosphere, team dynamics, and empathy among colleagues?
I represent a company called Palo Alto Networks. We are one of the largest cybersecurity companies in the world. We are also a progressive employer, and this question came many times. Is pets allowed in workplace, right? And what happened is it is not everybody's choice, right? Not many people. Some people say yes, some said no. And what we decided is that, of course, we have to be more proactive to what is happening. And some people look at support systems, and COVID is a classic example. There are a lot of our employees who was in places which was not close to families. They had a pet with them, right? At the time it was family, and they always took care of it. And when we started calling employees back to office, is there a place which is pet friendly? We set up. So as we speak, we are building a place which is, if you want to bring a pet, right? There's a space that's designed in the way that your pets can be there with you, right? And provided there are some, of course we are HR people, so we create some framework and say we advise doing these things. But to answer the question shortly, we do, right? And we also have a group, it's called as Employee Resource Group, ERG we call it, that ERG is pretty prominent and very popular, right? And that group specifically focuses on pet moms and pet dads, whatever the fancy names they call, right? There is quite a lot of discussions happening, right? People talk about their cats, dogs, and whatnot, right? And that's a very popular group. And I was surprised. I love pets at a distance, but no. But when I started looking at it, right, it is very, very intense conversations. People talk about it much more than human beings, and I think that's part. It's very close to them. And that gives me a strong, sense of containment as well, saying that hey, there are a lot of people who is very passionate about it, and it's also we also are in fact supporting them to get it out, right? To be compassionate about. Now, there are a lot of people who support stray dogs, placing them, finding houses, moms, and all of those. We thought it can't be ignored, right? It's a need of our. A lot of people need it. A lot of people were defensive, saying that I have this problem, it sneezes and all of those. But we said those are minor problems to take care. But as a company, we are moving to that. We've moved, right? So of course that's relevant in our current scenario.
Thank you so much, Ranjit, saying this. I'll come to you in a while. I know you are not a pet lover, so I'll go to you first, Shedul, and then to Rohan, Sarita, and last you on this.
So I know we didn't get a chance to talk about diversity and inclusiveness, but honestly there is no better example than talking about pets, right? And the kind of example that Ranjit gave really fosters it, right? But I also want to touch base with what Sarika said. All of these things we got to do with the larger spirit of inclusiveness and not as a tick the box and check the box. As long as you, as organizations, are intentional about creating that environment of diversity and inclusiveness, I think it's a great idea to have pets in your office. I, for one, have partnered with Vijay in the previous role to actually ensure that in spite of 3 months, I think we waited to set up an office in Bangalore, but that wait was worth it. Even though we had productivity issues, the wait was worth it until we found a builder or a co-working space that aligns with our values in terms of what we want to do, right? And I think just to give, and going back, to me all of this ties back to the whole topic, empathy, inclusiveness, all of that we talked about, right? I think it's important that we demonstrate with actions that we are very serious about something like this, and we are open to people's choices, and we will not come in the way. If anything, we will only foster that culture and environment.
Great, Shedul. He doesn't want to speak quite a lot about the insights on that office selection, but we'll see.
Okay, so we are talking about empathy, and empathy is one of those items in the superset, which is emotional intelligence, right? Self-realization or self-awareness. Next one is self-regulation, then there's empathy, then there's your social interactions, and then there's motivation, right? I think I personally learn a lot from somebody who is around pets, and I don't have a pet at home, but at the farm we've got enough and more animals that we would care for. But in that emotional intelligence quotient, it's very important for me to see how somebody is along and what their emotions are towards an animal, especially who isn't able to communicate in the language that we know, or we can so beautifully talk so many sentences and paragraphs about. How you behave with that animal tells a lot about who you are. And this is not to ding anybody who doesn't have pets or who has a different approach. Maybe you are able to show it in a different way. But for me personally, it's been easy to do that. And if you've read Vijay's book, Vijay's pet is Casper, and he talks about the pet stealing his idlis, his chocolates, and just about anything which is dear to him. I know, because I don't get to steal his idlis. It shows you the kind of person that Vijay is, and his relationship with a pet. And it puts you at ease knowing that you are in company of somebody who is able to recognize that there are needs that you may not comprehend, but you have to respond to. At the end of it, empathy is the same way, right? There are needs that somebody has in front of you. You may not comprehend it 100%, may not make sense to you, but you recognize it and you act. In short, to say, emotional intelligence is when you are filled with emotion, you choose to be intelligent and not act with emotion. You choose to act with intelligence, right? So I think as we bring pets into the workspace, it gives us another opportunity to see who else is that way. The culture of service animals really hasn't picked up yet in India, at least as much as we want to. That's because a lot of it in the West is also being misused. people coming into the office with boa constrictors and saying, this is my service animal. I like you, that you like a snake, but yeah, I'm not taking that. I'd like to stop it at probably ponies, calves, cats and dogs, right? Probably birds as well. So I think it's a nice indicator of whom you're dealing with. Gives you a little bit of insight into their lives, their way of thinking. It's a great thing if you could get pets into the workplace.
Absolutely. You got now 30 seconds to talk about that.
And I only want 30 seconds for this because we allow pets in the office. The only thing that we ask the pet mom or pet dad to do is to be mindful and empathetic towards people who may have a fear of certain animals. That's it. That's the only word of caution that we give them. But they can bring pets to office.
Thank you so much. Now to you.
Honestly, I don't have a point of view.
That's why. Exactly.
When HR asked, we said okay. We said bring it, but a good side effect on the business is we do health checks. We do health checks for humans, by the way. When we offer it to our employees, right, we always bring your spouse or parents and stuff. So we give like 4 or 5 coupons to them. So one person came and said, I had me and myself and my pet. So with that, what we are doing is we're going to start pet health check for corporates. I mean, we do corporate workplace well-being, so we are getting into that. Pets longevity, there are drugs and supplements which is extending pets' life by a couple of years, 3 years. It's a good business to be in, so we set up.
Exactly. So, that's the reason I said Vivek will come last because of various reasons. And, I think Rohan mentioned about my journey with pet and it alluded towards my pet named Casper. From not an animal lover, from an abuser of an animal, today I'm an animal activist. And this turnaround came because of my pet. Named Casper, and it went on to actually me publishing a book, and that's the book, and they made me an author. So all those transformations happened, and today I'm talking about or thinking about how this element of adopting an animal or being empathetic to an animal can bring the emotions to workplace and touch upon every aspect of employee life cycle. So my second book, which I'm going to advertise now, and please do pick it up whenever it comes, is going to be about how empathy and how probably having a pet, adopting a pet and all these things can transform you as an individual and probably impact the workplace. If you look around globally, I think what we need more is empathy, more is care, more forgiveness, right? There are multiple countries on war and I don't know what is going to happen soon. But I guess what more is needed in these days is empathy and empathy and empathy. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I think it was interesting conversation with my friends here first and co-panelists. And thank you very much, Rajesh, for this opportunity, for coming here and talking to all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Vijay, for chairing such a wonderful panel here. I now request our Chancellor, Madam Dr. Rupa Vasudevan, and our Vice Chancellor, Dr. S.S. Bilki, to felicitate all of this distinguished guests. Third session kept me awake for many reasons. There's something that I constantly talk at home, especially with my family members, is about empathy. That we forgive each other for whatever we do at home, and then we show that concern, that emotional quotient. I think empathy works not only at the workplace but also at home. And today in our discussions we had very important points, but one thing that I'm going to take with me is that empathy at leadership level and contextualizing empathy in practice, which is also very important. One important statement that one of our friends had made today is that please be kind with yourself. I think which is very, very, very important in the kind of age and the times that we are living in right now. And I'm absolutely sure that emotional intelligence cannot be taken light. It should be something that should be part of each and every one of us. We should be fully emotional at the same time. We should be very intelligent in the way we deal with our affairs. But coming back to again a very small statement but very impactful is that one thing that I learned in my childhood. I mean, I hope all of us remember that Idea ad when Idea Cellular came into picture. One idea can change your life. The same thing, but today something new that I got to learn is that a pet can change your life. So that's very impactful. I'm sure. I mean, I never had a pet, but probably I'll look for having a pet in the near future.